So, guess what, my friends? We're making another trip into the Criterion Collection. The movie I randomly selected this time is a really good one because it's both visually stunning and I'm a fan of true crime. The movie is Terrence Malick's 1973 neo-noir Badlands. It's inspired by the Charles Starkweather and Carol Ann Fugate killing spree in 1958. That's the same killing spree that inspired the controversial Oliver Stone film Natural Born Killers. Terrence Malick doesn't need me to tell anyone that he is one of the most brilliant filmmakers in the business, and it all started with Badlands, his debut feature. He directed the film, he wrote the film, and the thing that shocked me the most was that he produced the film. When I saw that in the film credits at the end, I thought to myself, how did this man raise the money to produce his debut feature? It's an independent film, and it was the late 1960s, early 1970s. How did he accomplish this feat? Apparently, Malick raised some of the budget by approaching people outside of the film industry. He approached doctors and dentists to contribute to the production. Malick contributed $25,000 from his own personal savings. Executive producer Edward R. Pressman raised the rest. Normally, when I watch a movie, I don't care too much where the money came from. No one likes to know how the sausage was made, but the production values for this debut film were so spectacular that I had questions that needed answered. So I thought it was neat how he solicited money for the production. That shows this man has a true passion for filmmaking and that he's a perfectionist. Terrence Malick films such as Badlands, Days of Heaven, The Thin Red Line, The New World, and The Tree of Life are mostly famous for their voiceover narration and their lavish cinematography that is often achieved with natural light. His desire to use natural light in most, if not all, of his films is why his filmography isn't that long. There are only certain hours within the day where filming can take place, and once that window is closed, they have to wait for that exact natural light to return to continue filming. It's like trying to control the weather. You can't control the weather, you can't control the light. Apparently, the director couldn't control his cinematographers either, because Malick's first cinematographer was a man named Brian Probin, who quit mid-shoot. Probin was then replaced by Tak Fujimoto, and then Fujimoto was replaced by Stephen Larner, who completed the photography. Executive producer Edward R. Pressman, whom I mentioned earlier, said that, amazingly, despite the input of 3 different hands, the film looks remarkably seamless. And he is absolutely right. That's the beauty of editing, y'all. To understand what Badlands is about, it's best to discuss the Starkweather Fugate killing spree that inspired the film. If you possess the Criterion Collection Blu-ray release of Badlands, there is a special feature that may interest you. It's a 1993 episode of the television program American Justice about the Charles Starkweather case. I'm going to have to take a look at that later. I've discovered in recent years that Carol Ann Fugate and her role in the killings has really polarized the true crime-obsessed community, a community to which I belong. Was she Starkweather's lover? Was she culpable in the killings? Was she a hostage? Was she just trying to survive while on a deadly road trip with a psychotic killer? What exactly was her role in the killing spree? It's up for debate, and depending on what true crime media you are consuming, you will draw a different conclusion. There's Carol Ann Fugate's side of the story, there's Charles Starkweather's side of the story, then there's the truth, which seems to have gotten lost somewhere. but I'll spin a little tale for you, and you can decide for yourself what you believe really happened, and I'll start in chronological order. When Charles Starkweather was 18, he was introduced to a 13-year-old Carol Ann Fugate. Charlie was a high school dropout and worked at a newspaper warehouse near Carol's school. When school would let out at the end of the day, there he would be, waiting for her every day. They hung out regularly and started going steady, even against her parents' wishes. Charlie even taught Carol how to drive using his father's car. One day, she crashed the car and Charlie was kicked out of his parents' house. However, it wasn't just because of the car accident. By the time he dropped out of school, his parents and other family members were already terrified of him due to his violent temper. He also quit his warehouse job and became a garbage collector. During this time in Charlie's life, he developed a dangerous, nihilistic philosophy and started behaving and acting in ways that coincided with that worldview. The first murder happened in Lincoln, Nebraska on November 30th, 1957. Charlie was at a service station. He was upset that an attendant, a 21-year-old man named Robert Culvert, refused to sell him a stuffed animal on credit. Charlie left defeated, but he kept returning to the gas station like a menacing creep, making small purchases before ultimately pulling out a shotgun and forcing Culvert to give him $100 from the cash register. Charlie then abducted Culvert, and he drove him to a remote area. Both men struggled over the gun. Charlie won, unfortunately, and he killed Robert Culvert by shooting him several times in the head. That was just the precursor to the murder spree that was to follow. Now we're getting into the discrepancies. A couple months after the murder of Culvert, on January 21st, 1958, Charlie showed up at the Fugate home to see Carol. Carol's mother and stepfather ordered Charlie to leave and stay away. They did not approve of this 19-year-old man being in a relationship with their 14-year-old daughter, and it wouldn't surprise me if they had witnessed some of the violent outbursts that had frightened Charlie's own parents so much that they kicked him out of their home. What was Charlie's response when he was told to stay away from Carol Ann? Naturally, he shot them both to death and clubbed Carol's 2-year-old sister to death. The bodies were then placed in an outhouse and chicken coop behind the house. Charlie said Carol was a present accomplice the entire time that these killings took place. Carol said that she arrived home and she met Charlie, who was holding a gun and claiming that he was holding her family hostage. Carol claims that she cooperated with him so that her family would be safe. The pair spent 6 days in the house after the massacre. Charlie said those were the happiest 6 days of his life. They did leave, though, fearing that police were getting suspicious. After leaving the Fugate house, the pair drove to a farmhouse of one of Charlie's family friends, a man named August Meyer, in Bennett, Nebraska. Charlie, staying true to form, killed the 70-year-old man by shooting him in the head with a shotgun. He also killed the man's dog because he's a jerk. After Meyer's murder, the pair needed to flee the area, and after getting their car stuck, they resorted to hitchhiking. 2 kind-hearted local teens stopped to give them a ride. Their names were Robert Jensen and Carol King. Charlie forced them to drive the car to an abandoned storm cellar. Again, Charlie shoots Jensen in the back of the head. But then Charlie tried something that we haven't seen him attempt yet, and it was not explored in the movie Badlands. Charlie attempted to incorporate a non-consensual sexual element into his crime against Carol King. She resisted so much, though, that he abandoned committing the sexual act. Charlie claims that he shot Jensen, but he claims that Carol Ann shot King out of jealousy. Carol claims that Charlie killed both of them and that she stayed in the car the entire time. They both then fled the scene in Jensen's car. Now, the next part is a gruesome home invasion, so I'll try to be brief. I don't want to cause any nightmares. So here's what happened in a nutshell. Charlie and Carol Ann drove Jensen's car to the wealthy neighborhood of Lincoln, Nebraska. They decided to enter the home of Chester Lauer Ward and Clara Ward. While in this home, Charlie stabbed their maid to death, killed the family dog by breaking its neck, stabbed Clara to death, but insisted Carol Ann did it, and then Charlie killed Chester Lauer by shooting him. Then Starkweather and Fugate filled the Ward's 1956 Packard with stolen goods from the house and fled Nebraska. Eventually, they had to lose the Packard and get a new car. Outside of Douglas, Wyoming, the pair happened upon a salesman named Merle Collison sleeping in his Buick along the highway. After he was awakened by the pair, he was shot by both of them, according to Starkweather. Of course, Fugate denies killing anyone. Starkweather didn't know how to operate the car's parking brake. These two have horrible luck when it comes to driving. They can't do anything. Eventually, a passing motorist comes upon the scene. Then a sheriff's deputy arrives on the scene. Fugate, possibly thinking on her feet or possibly seeing her chance to escape, ran up to the sheriff's deputy, yelling, "It's Starkweather! He's going to kill me!" Starkweather drove off, got in a car chase with 3 officers. Starkweather eventually surrendered when he realized that he was bleeding from when the windshield cut him. He was taken into custody on January 29, 1958. Even though Charles Starkweather killed 11 people and 2 family dogs, he was only tried for the murder of Robert Jensen. The jury deliberated for 22 hours, and on May 23, 1958, he was sentenced to death. Thank goodness. Starkweather was executed in the electric chair at the Nebraska State Penitentiary in Lincoln, Nebraska at 12:04 a.m. on June 25, 1959. He is buried in the same cemetery as 5 of his 11 victims. Fugate was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, but she was paroled in June of 1976 after serving less than 18 years behind bars. She now lives in Hillsdale, Michigan. Terrence Malick's film Badlands is told from the point of view of the young girl modeled after Carol Ann Fugate. She is named Holly, and she is portrayed by the wonderful Sissy Spacek. If I remember correctly, Badlands was only her second movie role. Since Holly is the one providing the voiceover, she comes off as somewhat unreliable narrator. She doesn't seem to put up much of a fight against her counterpart. The character modeled after Charles Starkweather is Kit, and he is portrayed by Martin Sheen. The screenplay keeps a lot of things true to the actual story. However, there is a lot that has changed too. Kit is obsessed with James Dean. Kit works as a garbage collector. A lot of the different car troubles the couple had run into also happened in the movie. Kit gets executed. Holly spends some time in prison, except she gets paroled and ends up marrying the son of her defense attorney. Instead of the movie taking place in Nebraska, it takes place in the Montana Badlands. I also found the film to be less gruesome than the facts of the actual murder spree. There was one line of dialogue at the end of the film that I have issue with, though, only because we've established that the real Charles Starkweather developed a nihilistic worldview in the time after he quit his job at the warehouse. In the movie, a deputy asked Kit,
"Kid, I got a question for you. You like people? They're okay.
You like people? Kit replies, they're okay. A nihilist would not say that people were okay or that he liked them in any way, and the real Charles Starkweather was known to say that he wished he lived in a world where only he existed. That's vastly different from Kit's psychological state. But since the movie is inspired by the case and doesn't claim to be 100% faithful in retelling of the facts of the crime spree, I suppose I could let it slide. As a true crime buff, I can't let it slide. As a film lover, I have no complaints. Badlands is a sight to behold. It's hard to believe that a film about a couple on a murder spree could be so visually stunning. The music is also quite fun as well. When you listen to it, you get the feeling that it doesn't quite belong with the subject matter, but then you remember that these two characters, Kit and Holly, are living in their own little world, which is horrifying to your average person, but a fairy tale to them. The best way I can describe it is as a gentler, more alluring version of Natural Born Killers. Like I mentioned earlier, Badlands and Natural Born Killers are both inspired by the Starkweather Fugate killing spree, so I often compare the two. Also, in this specific Martin Sheen film, you get a really good glimpse of one, his resemblance to his son, Charlie Sheen, and two, his difference in arm length. You especially notice it in the scenes where Kit is working as a garbage collector. He bends his arms at the elbow to try and conceal the fact that his left arm is 3 inches shorter than his right arm, but you can still see it. What had happened to him was when he was born, Martin Sheen had suffered a birth injury where his left arm was crushed by forceps. This resulted in something called Erb's palsy, as well as the difference in arm's length. He has limited lateral movements of the left arm, and the arm is 3 inches shorter than his right arm. You really notice it in the movie Badlands. During my most recent viewing of the film, I said to myself, something's off, and I was right. But good for him. He didn't let his birth defect hold him back. He still has gone on to be one of Hollywood's biggest movie and television stars, and in his mid-80s, he's still rocking it. I watch Grace and Frankie. Badlands is, of course, available on Blu-ray, released by the Criterion Collection. As of May 19th, 2025, it is not on any streaming service, although you can purchase it for digital. Until next time.